Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fantasy Table brought to you by the Blue Stable. Big week this week. Trade deadline was this past week, so obviously we got a lot to talk about. That's going to be the main point of our show today. We're going to be talking about all the trades that happened in the past week and kind of the fantasy football impact with them, as well as some other news and notes. But Theo, how you doing today?
Good, good. Yeah, no more fantasy related trades. These are like actual NFL trades that we're going to be talking about. And a lot of them did shake up the fantasy world. So,
Man, it was
I mean,
fun.
like
It was,
even the smaller players
yeah.
that you don't think can make that much of an it does. Like there's a domino effect here.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes on, but I tell you what, this was one of the most fun NFL trade deadlines I think we've ever had. Like, there is just so much movement. Like, I was just I was sitting at work just refreshing my Twitter feed. Like, come on, Schefter, tell me something more. Tell me the Kareem Hunt news.
And I think I saw a tweet saying that this was the most active an NFL deadline has been in its history.
Yeah, I did
So
see that too. Yeah,
a lot of ramifications.
a lot to talk about. So I guess we better get right on into it. Jamar Chase, he is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, but he is not going on IR. For having a player like Chase, obviously the Bengals, they want to try to keep him off IR just for that in case he does come back early. He's just one of those difference makers that he's worth the risk on not putting him on IR just in case he can come back earlier than expected.
The T Higgins targets kind of it was weird because the production that you expect out of him as a new wide receiver one in that offense was not what he was getting. Tyler Boyd surely got help with the touchdown. Other than that, I mean that Bengals offense looked pretty bad against the Browns.
Yeah, it looked pretty rough. But yeah, I mean, I've seen so many people talk about how like Higgins is almost better whenever Chase is out there. And I mean, it kind of like I agree to an extent, but it's like also at the same time he is also fine on his own. Like he's shown it before. It's just weird how his better games coincide that Jamar Chase is out there.
Yeah, I also think that could be related to the corners that guard him. It's
Oh
not the
yeah,
team's best
100%.
corner, it's now the team's second best corner. Of course, not every team's going to shadow
Mm-hmm.
Chase just because that's how their defensive scheme works, but just kind of like percentage wise, that's what you see.
Well, and
Um
you see Chase get double teams quite a
oh
bit
yeah, with the
too. So
safeties up top for
yeah, the
sure.
safeties will more lean on Chase's side than they would Higgins' side.
And I don't think Higgins has it in his game to kind of combat that, right? Chase
Yeah,
Chase produces despite the double teams. He
right.
finds a way to get open. Higgins, I think that's the one flaw in him when he moves to a wide receiver one.
Yeah,
But at also last game was kind of a dumpster fire for the Bengals. So
yeah,
I
that's bad.
I wouldn't put too much on Higgins not performing with Chase out.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, you talking about that, it's like they're totally different players, but it reminds me of a lot of like Juju whenever he like blew up. He blew up because Antonio Brown was over there just getting double teamed all the time. And it just opened up so much more for Juju. But whenever Juju became the one, he just couldn't do what he did because he was getting more better coverage against him. Cooper Cup is day to day with an ankle sprain. This is an injury that happened late in the game, so not a whole lot of people like noticed it. But he did get an ankle sprain. He did not participate in practice on Wednesday, but he did do the walkthrough.
I'm I'm not scared. I mean, I'm like, I'm like missing Cooper Cup for a week. I mean, if your team has Cooper Cup, you're most likely winning.
You're probably
So,
doing okay.
yeah, I mean, I think fantasy managers can go without Cooper Cup for a week if he ends up missing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw someone. Oh, maybe you can trade him high now with his injury. I was like, why would you want to trade Cooper Cup away? Like, if someone's offering me Cooper Cup, hey, I don't think I can turn that down.
I like Stephon Diggs, um, Tyreek Hill maybe. Those are like
Yeah,
there's someone else up there, but like that's
Jefferson.
not Jeff. I'd take Cup over Jefferson,
Yeah, I
but
probably
I
would
think
too.
like Diggs, yeah, Diggs and Tyreek Hill are probably the two wide receivers that there could be like the only upgrade from Cup. So like just trading him doesn't make any sense. And even then they're
Yeah,
pretty much equal. So
right, right. Rashad Bateman is expected to miss a few weeks. Just unfortunate for Rashad Bateman. I wish he could stay healthy because I love the potential of Rashad Bateman, and I feel like every time we get flashes, something happens to where we don't see his full potential.
yep, go for alum. Love him. I mean, he just can't catch a break in the NFL. He didn't have these problems as much as he did in the NFL. And it's weird to see. And I like watched him throughout his whole college career, and you see those flashes like you said, but they're not as consistent because of his persisting injuries. Hopefully his trajectory changes a bit, but I mean, yeah, it's tough.
It is definitely tough. Ravens believe that Mark Andrews should be okay, but still, no matter what, I would go ahead and make sure you have Isaiah Likely on your roster
Hmm.
if he is a free agent. He's talented rookie tight end. He's already shown like flashes, like we've seen big games from him. Like Thursday night, we saw that he got that touchdown. He's definitely a guy that you should have rostered because if Mark Andrews is out, he's automatically a tight end one, and you should start him.
Yeah, he stepped up big time on that game. I
Yeah.
mean, those like he was making plays, catching the ball well. I like him if Mark Andrews. I think he's easily a tight end one. Like whoever's plays tight end in that Ravens offense, I feel like is a tight end one. So
See, I'm curious with like Bateman out if maybe they use Isaiah Likely a little bit more just because of that as well. It depends on how much they like their receivers, I guess, but like I feel like two tight ends in that system could work pretty well yet. Big Irv Smith went on the injured reserve. I think I saw 6 weeks at least for him. So he's going to miss a lot of time. I know we'll talk about Hawkinson later, but you might as well drop him. I don't think there's any point in holding on to him.
no, I mean not even an IR. That's a waste of an IR spot in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Melvin Gordon is still the starter. Um, Chase Edmonds expected to play on third downs. Um, but I also saw later on that Nathaniel Hackett said that Gordon and Latavius Murray are co-starters, whatever that means. I don't
It
think you can
means
start
don't
two
play
running
either
backs.
of them
Yeah, don't play any
unless
of the three with Edmonds there now.
I mean the stat that Edmonds was had the lowest expected
That
yards
was
per carry since what 2011.
it. Yeah, it's it was bad. Whatever it was.
And no running back has finished below. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was like no running back has finished below -1 expected yards per carry since 2011. And right now, Chase Edmonds is at like -2.4. So,
Yeah, it was a tweet from Dave Kluge. He said that Chase Edmonds remains at the very bottom of the running back list in rushing yards over expectation per attempt with -2.38. He said to contextualize that number, no other running back in the NFL has below -1. Nobody else, and he's at -2.38. And he said it's 2017 that no
oh,
running back.
2017.
Yeah, so since 2017, no running back ever has finished a season below -1, and Chase Edmonds is over double that. Nuts.
Avoid.
Yeah, avoid. I'm sorry that I said Chase Edmonds running back 30 before the season.
I mean, hey.
I mean, to be fair,
it
that
is
was that,
it is
I thought it
what
was
it
worth a
is.
shot.
Yeah. But at least we were talking about this just before. I don't see any further topic on it, so I guess I'll touch up on it now. Los Angeles Rams backfield. I said to Luke that I think it's now the worst backfield in fantasy to own. Like you do not want any running back on the Los Angeles Rams. I get it. Last year, offensive powerhouse, scoring points, getting near the red zone, scoring opportunities is high. It's not that this year. Too much rotation, too much speculations. Got Henderson getting outplayed by Ronnie Rivers. It's a mess. Cam Akers now, like his agent wants him to be involved. So now you're adding Ronnie Rivers, Daryl Henderson, Cam Akers, and now you have Kyron Williams who's coming back. He's right behind him. And it's like if he's healthy, he could start catching passes out of the backfield. 4 running backs in that offense that have all been used as the main guy. I mean, except for Kyron Williams, but it's not healthy. It's not healthy to find a consistent guy. There's no way at this point in the fantasy season where you could start one of them confidently, even if you're suffering so much from a bye week, especially this week. You got a lot of teams on a bye week, but I can't find how can you convince me to start Daryl Henderson in a flex spot?
I gotta say it is rough. Like, to me, there's no way you can confidently start a Rams running back. Like Cam Akers has something against the team, or the team has something against him. I know they're trying to work it out to where he still plays again this year, but I think I saw some with Cam Akers saying that for the best of his career, he might not play this season, which is totally understandable. He just had a major injury, so he might not want to risk that again. Daryl Henderson just is not the same with I guess just the offense as a whole not being good. Like I saw last year, Matt Stafford had 41 touchdowns to like 7 interceptions, or like I forget how many interceptions it was, but this year he's on track for 17 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. So
Jameis Winston numbers.
Yeah, so less than half of his touchdowns from last year. It's the Rams offense as a whole just took a major step back. I mean, whenever you have a guy named Ronnie Rivers, who I've never heard of before that game, like leaving your backfield, it's just a mess. Kyron Williams, like we heard that he was supposed to like take a major role week 1, and then he got hurt right away in the game. So maybe he like shows anything, but nobody else is doing the job there. But I know Theo, like you were talking about the Rams running back room, but the Broncos is almost just as bad with.
Yeah, I think they're 1B, or in this case 32B.
Yeah, whichever way you say it. I mean, yeah, it like Gordon, Murray, and Edmonds. That's just a nightmare. I know they were like talking about whether they should drop Gordon for this other player. I was like, yeah, do it, because like someone else is going to pick up Gordon and like maybe start him. So like let your opponent take Gordon and try to start him. Like let them deal with him.
And I hate it because all those offenses, like both Rams and Broncos, right? They were presumed to be heavy artillery, powerhouse, drive the ball downfield, pass heavy. I mean, even in a pass heavy offense, it still can be running back friendly. They're just supposed to be powerhouse offenses this year. and now they have just oversaturated fantasy relevant running backs,
Yeah.
and it's all based on the hope that they will live up to expectations near the end of the season. And I feel like there's a lot of teams, there's a lot of rosters that can't afford to invest that. You can't invest in the hope of them being better later on if your record is at 500 or if
Yeah.
you're below 500. You can't.
Yeah, you can't invest in either of those running back rooms like at this point. Like even if you're doing well, like I don't think there's any point. Maybe Kyron Williams and just the hope that like in the potential that he could be something, but even then like
No.
yeah, I
Don't
guess
convince yourself, Luke. Do
no,
not
I'm
convince
not
yourself.
like I'm not doing it. But I
Okay.
mean I can understand the argument for it. Like
Yeah, especially for someone like Kyron Williams, I guess, is like because he hasn't been proven yet. Like we haven't seen him on the field. That's the only player. But even then, coming off an injury, I'm all right.
like if say you're doing well in your league, like you're in the top half of the league, you're most likely making the playoffs. Would you drop Daryl Henderson at this point for Kyron Williams?
Once he's activated, yeah, because then that shows me that the team is confident in him
Mm-hmm.
performing, but not right now. Because right now, I mean, Kyron Williams could probably sit out for the whole year. And
Yeah.
but this
Um,
topic is depressing. Let's
yeah, I gotta say, let's move on to some more happy news. Like
oh
Cordell Patterson activated off the IR. He practiced
yeah.
on Wednesday. So hopefully he can come back and be the Cordell Patterson that he was at the beginning of the season. Like I I looked it up and like I know it was kind of like at the beginning of the season that's been so long ago, but I mean he was averaging like 15 points a game. So he's been well this season. If he can return to that, he's a solid running back for you for the rest of the season.
Am I the only one that saw Caleb Huntley on the waiver wire and just went no and just kind of like keep scrolling to see if there's like any better options I was missing?
I see him every week at the top of my projected running back list, and I'm
Yes.
just every week I'm just like I can't do that.
No.
Like if it's Tyler Algier, I'm fine with it. Like I would have been fine with starting him these past few weeks, but Huntley, I just could not do it.
I'm kind of disappointed in what Tyler Algier has done, especially with how much hype he received heading
Yeah,
into the
yeah.
season.
The
You have
offseason,
your
he was so like, oh, this guy could be running back one. Like,
yeah, like you're hyping him up for that, and then the time comes, and now you let Huntley start taking over your snaps because they feel like less of you on the field is more efficient. That I mean, dynasty wise, it's I mean, like he could improve, right? Like over the
yeah,
years, you could see him possibly going to another team and utilizing him more as the pass catching back that he should be. But as of right now, it was pretty disappointing season from Algier.
yeah, I agree. Um, Keenan Allen said that his hamstring got worse during the bye week. I know Josh Palmer was, like many, listed as a popular waiver wire target for this week, especially with Mike Williams also out. But DeAndre Carter is also another name that I would circle, like try to pick up because if Keenan Allen is out, DeAndre Carter would probably be the wide receiver too. We saw flashes earlier on the season of him doing pretty well, so I feel like he could do that same, be in that same role again, do well once again with Justin Herbert.
I actually really like Everett coming out of this
Yeah,
as the top receiver.
yeah, that'd be
And
good.
I don't know. I mean, like right now he's kind of near the bottom of the tight end ones. He hasn't had those big performances as he did earlier in the season, but you could see him make a comeback in these next couple of weeks with Williams and Allen out. and I think he'll do just that. So if you're kind of contemplating on which tight end to start, if you picked up a enticing one like Greg Dulcich, I mean, I'd stick with Everett for this week, see how that works.
Yeah, and Everett actually has a great rest of season schedule for tight ends. So yeah, he's a pretty good play for the rest of the season. Because like hamstrings for like older veteran players, like they can linger on a while. Like to be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Keenan Allen doesn't play again this year. But I mean, I still think he does, but it would not surprise me if like he doesn't play again just because his hamstring's going to keep lingering.
Yeah, how after a bye week of training,
It got worse.
you get worse. So what am I supposed to think about next week or the following week? Is it just gonna be just trending all the way down?
And I
Or
also, yeah, and I also saw that he was like, yeah, the next time I go out there, it's like 100% or nothing. Like he said, he wants to be fully healthy the next time he goes
mm,
out and plays. He doesn't want to just like go out there for a few snaps. He doesn't want to like pitch count. He doesn't want any of that. He wants to be all in or all out. So that's also what worries me that like this might linger on because like even at practice, like that could cause a setback to where oh he's going to be out another couple weeks like, type thing.
the Chargers need him. They need him if they want to make a
Badly.
wild card. So it all depends on Keenan Allen's word and what he wants versus what the team wants. And if the team wants him out there, even though he's not at 100%, that could get complicated. I
Yeah.
mean, watch out for that. But Mike Williams coming back soon, so
Hopefully.
like a couple
Come back.
weeks.
Come back, Mike. Uh, DeAndre Swift did not participate in practice on Wednesday. I know Dan Campbell, he said that Swift got one too many carries, even though he had like 5 or 6 this past week. Jamal Williams got a lot of the touches. They said, yeah, Swift is back, but he's not fully back. Like he wasn't fully healthy. They kind of held him back a little bit. So I feel like that kind of worries me just a little bit because obviously he's one of their best players, so they want to keep him as healthy as possible, which I totally understand. But it gives me a little hesitation on playing him because, like, yeah, he didn't get a whole lot of touches earlier on the season, but he had that burst. He was fully healthy. Like, he just looked like he was getting shot out of a cannon wherever he was back there. And, like, you didn't exactly see that this past week.
And as you apologized for your Chase Edmonds RB30, I will have to apologize for me telling you that DeAndre Swift was a good trade candidate near the middle of the season. I mean, you could see where my thought process was. I did not know that this injury was going to last this long,
Yeah.
and that's the risk that I gave when I first said it. I was like, you're buying DeAndre Swift right now because it's at the lowest and you're risking him not playing for as many games as he may, or like the previous owner thought he was going to play. You're just kind of like weighing that, right? And it's like if he does play at 100%, he's in there and he's scoring points. Unfortunately, that side of the deal didn't work out, and that's just how risks are played. So yeah, that's gonna be a very complicated between Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift for the rest of the season, just kind of bouncing back and forth. So hopefully you have his handcuff.
Yeah, and hopefully Swift gets healthy by like the fantasy playoffs because that would be great. I would
I
like,
think yeah, that would redeem my take in
yeah.
Swift trading.
For our funny moment of the week, hopefully I can put this in the editing here. I I saw there's tweet of Calvin or Cordero Patterson. He wore a free Calvin Ridley T-shirt during the game on Sunday, and whenever Ridley got traded, Cordero Patterson put like a sad emoji tweet out, and someone said, "Hey man, you said free Ridley. That's what they did." He said, "I guess you're right." Like, so That's pretty funny. I'll try to put those tweets in on the editing, but I thought that was just so funny. Bye weeks this week. That's a big one. The Browns, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers, 49ers. Rough. I got a fantasy team that literally I checked it on Tuesday and I saw my lineup and literally everybody but the quarterback was on bye. It's like, oh, so this is fun. Which I mean, I had Christian McCaffrey, who it wasn't supposed to be his bye this week, but guess what?
Mhm.
Now it is. So that was unfortunate. But yeah,
There is a lot of fantasy relevant players, except for the Broncos, but there's a lot of fantasy relevant players.
yeah, there's a lot that
Not as
people
much
lost.
star power as there was like when the Vikings, Rams, and Bills
Buffalo,
were all on bye, but these are all like wide receiver two,
running back ones.
running back. Oh yeah, running back
You
ones.
got Chubb and Barkley,
Yep.
McCaffrey. Maybe
So
not.
that
I mean, not Najee, but Najee.
yeah, this one definitely hits deeper on the depth, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta hope that you have depth, and you gotta hope that you didn't have a bunch of bye weeks like I did on my one team. Before we move on to our next segment, let me tell you a little bit more about our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy platform where it's just you versus the projections. You can pick more or less on many player projections, such as receiving yards, rushing yards, receptions, and many more on any player on any sport that you watch. All you have to do is pick between 2 to 5 players, and you can win up to 10 times your entry. So download Prize Picks today and play daily fantasy sports with us. Make sure to use promo code BLUESTABLE when you sign up. If you use our code BLUESTABLE, you will get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit $10, you will get $10, making it $20. If you deposit $50, you'll get an additional $50 from them, which will make it $100. If you download 100, you'll get $100, making it $200 total. So go ahead, download Prize Picks today and use code BLUESTABLE to get that deposit match. But anyway, time for the fun part of the show. We're talking about all the NFL trades. First off, the one that we got to talk about is one from last week that happened after we recorded, unfortunately. But Kadarius Toney finally got out of the Giants and got traded to the Chiefs. I'm really excited for this one because automatically Kadarius Toney is their most talented wide receiver there. The Chiefs trading for him makes me like hope that they're going to use him pretty well. Dynasty wise, this moves him up like quite a bit from where he was with the
It's a
Giants.
must. Like
Yeah.
I guarantee one great game and you'll see his value skyrocket.
Yeah, it'll just go through the roof. For the rest of the season, like I'm still buying in. Like if he's on your waivers, like I hope you picked him up. I know I said like, I mean, yes, like there's still like he might not be the thing that people are hoping for, but his potential alone makes it worth just stashing him for now. He could easily beat out like MVS, McCole Hardman for a spot.
You know, injury's still a concern,
Yep.
but when he has the
Hey,
ball in his
guess what? Now that he's on the Chiefs, he's fully healthy.
Yep, I saw that too. I was about to say that too. Andy Reid said that I think Andy Reid said that he expects Tony to play this
That's good.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So, depends on how much they're going to use him. I feel like with Tony, he's a guy that needs to understand the playbook, like to kind of like be efficient. But I mean, all you have to do is scheme him to get the ball in his hands, and then he'll do the rest.
Yeah.
So Tony just needs to understand the scheme of Reed's offense, and he'll be set. I don't know how quickly he learns the playbooks. I don't know his intelligence levels, but if he gets that down the season, which I think he will in like couple weeks. That's that's a great get. That's a great get if you get him off the waivers.
Yeah, I'm excited for the potential. I'm just hoping that he shows it.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Hawkinson, this was the first trade on the trade deadline day. TJ Hawkinson got traded to the Vikings. Rip to Big Irv Smith. His dynasty value is just crashed after that trade. But to me, this is a great get for the Vikings. This helps Kirk Cousins even more. To me, on the Vikings side, this hurts Adam Thielen, I think, more than anybody. And then on the Lions side, I like this for Amon Ra. I feel like he's going to get a lot of targets.
Yeah, I think the biggest winner for this trade is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has
Yes.
already played like QB1 this season, and now he gets another target that can be efficient after he gets the ball. Irv Smith, sorry, dynasty owners, but I mean, the injury that's taken him out for most likely the rest of the year, mixed with Hawkinson now coming in. This is not the move that I expected the Vikings to do. I expected them to go out and get a wide receiver, most likely a deep threat in like Judy. I know Adam Thielen's there, and as you said, his stock's a little bit hurt from this Hawkinson, but I feel like the Vikings really needed another deep threat, a solid deep threat.
Yeah.
They have Rager, but Rager's not to the quality, and they're not using him as much. So, and I feel like that's because he's not up to the quality. So
To be quite honest, I forgot they had Rager until you said that, but I do remember their trade now.
yeah, but I mean, I wanted them to get another deep guy to open up more of Justin Jefferson's game. Right now he's not putting up the exact numbers as you'd want out of Justin. I mean, he is, right? But it's not like I don't think he's had that explosive game yet.
Yeah, we
And
wanted.
it's been a while.
I mean, we put him as wide receiver one for the year, and while he has shown that potential, the Vikings team is very good. I mean, they
Mhm.
got a great record for a reason, and that's why they made this trade to go all in on a weak NFC this year. But we haven't really seen Justin Jefferson be that wide receiver one we were hoping for.
I need more of those games like AJ Brown had.
Yeah,
Like the 3 touchdown plus 100 receiving yard games. Like I need to see Jefferson do that. I don't think that move does that for him. I think it's more stagnant now. Like his value doesn't increase or decrease with Hawkinson here, but Hawkinson's value increases, of course. Adam Thielen's, I don't think it's a major drop, but I
I mean, he
definitely
wasn't
think,
doing great to begin with.
yeah, but I definitely think that Hawkinson, there's situations where you're gonna want to now go more Hawkinson than you would have usually gone with Heelan.
Right, right. Next up, Bears finally get Justin Fields some wide receiver help in Chase Claypool. They sent a second round pick for Chase Claypool, which is surprising because they didn't want to use a second round pick on a wide receiver in this past draft. But either way, Chase Claypool, now Chicago Bear. I did see the funny thing where Chase Claypool was actually the one who announced the George Pickens draft selection. So he
Yep.
literally announced his replacement, which is crazy. But this is good for Justin Fields. I feel kind of even on Claypool because, yes, he has better opportunity here in Chicago. It's just Chicago doesn't pass at all. I know, Theo, I shared with you a tweet of Justin Fields has 5 career games over 200 passing yards
Yeah.
in his career, which is just wild to me. That's just norm in the today's NFL. But yeah, also on the Steelers side, I like this. I'd say the most for Fryermuth, but Pickens is also right there for me as well.
Yeah. I don't know how much like Deontay Johnson sees an increase from this,
Yeah.
especially because I don't know, like maybe he gets like one or two more targets on average a game, which honestly might be quite a bit. Like, but I mean, Claypool near the end of his Steelers tenure, you saw him getting like 9 target games, 7 target games, 6 target games, which is like that's a pretty solid volume for a wide receiver. But I like Muth and I like Pickens picking up more of an important role because one, they're younger, and two, I feel like Steelers offense might Kenny Pickett might connect with them more. And there's some games where Kenny's Pickett's really connected with Pickens, but there's
Yeah.
also games where Kenny Pickett is really connected with Johnson. So I think it's all like a small slight increase up. It's just kind of like a
I gotta
level
say,
increase.
I'm not saying like, oh, move him up like 10 spots in your wide receiver rankings because
Yeah. And even like you said, you like this for Muth. I think if you were like to kind of break it down minuscule to see how much it goes up, I think you'll see Muth have a little bit more than what he was expected to. Still a low tight end one, but
yeah.
maybe it bumps him up to like maybe some weeks you'll see him more now in the top 7
Yeah, I
finishes.
feel like he's just going to be more consistent anyway. He's going to get like an extra target or two a game, which I mean, for tight ends, that's a lot. Um, but
Because there's not a lot of Steelers wide receivers below Pickens that will jump into that Claypool role.
yeah, yeah,
And wait, what do you think about Mooney on the Bears side? Now that Claypool is there, do you think
yes.
Moon
So it's interesting because I mean, like, I still feel like Mooney's going to get his because I mean, we saw N'Keal Harry and Equinemius St. Brown like get some receptions and targets. So I feel like Claypool will take more from like those guys, and it'll kind of be like a 1A, 1B to me with Mooney and Claypool because, like, to be quite honest, I don't know who I would rather have between those two. Like, I feel like they're pretty similar. Like, I know Chicago just gave up a second round pick for Claypool, but Mooney's been the established guy there. So it's so tricky for me because like I don't to me it's almost like splitting hairs with those guys. And the Bears don't pass a whole lot anyway, so it's hard for me to really want to go get like one of those guys. But yeah, I just
I
found
have
this
a I have a take.
okay.
I think Mooney returns to production as we saw with last year when Allen Robinson was there.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, that's definitely a good. I,
Now
I, that's a smart one. Yeah.
now will Claypool produce the same numbers as Allen Robinson? Probably not. He'll probably be better than what Allen Robinson was, but
I
I
hope so.
honestly think this opens up Mooney's game a little bit more, just enough for him to start getting the ball moving. I don't think he'll
Maybe be
reach to
relevant.
yeah, I don't think he'll ever reach to ADP level because we all expected him to be the wide receiver one, getting like averaging 9 targets a game, and that's not happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just barely below what he was at ADP. I can see him climbing up to that from now on.
Yeah, no, I really like that take. With him having another wide receiver there, that maybe that'll help him more. I like that. Bradley. So I'm just saying it's a Bradley Chubb trade because I don't want to say it the other way around. Bradley
Mm-hmm.
Chubb gets traded to the Dolphins, and in return, Dolphins gave the Broncos Chase Edmonds. I didn't really want to start off by saying, the Chase Edmonds trade because it like the trade is not centered around Chase Edmonds. Um, Bradley Chubb goes to the Dolphins, and Chase Edmonds comes back. Like we said earlier, just a nightmare of a backfield there in Denver. Like, there's like if I had to pick one that I would want on my roster, I would take Latavius Murray. I think over Gordon or Edmonds at this point.
I would rather play Bradley Chubb at running back than Chase Edmonds.
Oh, it's so funny because, like, I mean, what do you do with Chase Edmonds? Do you hold on and see what happens? Because they have the bye week this week, so you got to hold on for this week plus next week to see what happens.
Okay, I don't know the bye weeks next week off the top of my head, but if I had to assume, I don't think it's worth it to hold Edmonds for this week because it takes up a roster spot. It takes up a roster spot in which you could be snagging a Deion Jackson or another backup running back that if the starter goes down, or like a Jalen Warren, like starter goes down, he assumes that role, and you've got a new RB2 or like a flex play for the next 3 weeks that you don't have to worry about. And that helps. That helps so much with decision making. Even if it's 3 weeks, it's so much better than like to say, oh, damn, I could have had him, but instead I kept Chase Edmonds on the Denver Broncos. No.
Yeah, so next week's bye weeks are Ravens, Bengals, Patriots, Jets.
Yeah, Michael Carter, James Robinson, Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, that's a big one. Joe Mixon, that's another big one. And the first one you said
Ravens, so Kenyon Drake, Gus Edwards.
Drake, Gus Edwards, if he's healthy. Yeah, I mean, the Gus Edwards one too. Like, I was a player, I mean, like, right? There's, I don't know. I kind of speechless on this one. The only words I have is no Chase Edmonds. That's
I mean, if you still have him on your roster, like, I'm impressed. Like, just for the fact that you haven't, like, which I guess I do understand because, like, I feel like the only reason people are holding on to Chase Edmonds was because he was behind Raheem Mostert, who has shown that he is not the healthiest player in the NFL.
That's true.
So having that value that at any moment he could be the running back one, even though he hasn't been great this year, like, that opportunity is fantasy relevant. But now you're not just stuck behind one, you're stuck behind two. Like, there's already been injuries in that backfield. Like, like, at that point you're just hoping for 2 injuries to even get some sort of relevance, and even then it's an ugly backfield already. Yeah, I don't know if it's worth.
Nope, it's not.
just let someone else worry about him. Hey, just like Melvin Gordon, put him on the waiver wire. Let someone else pick him up.
No one else worry about him, please. No one.
Hey, not everybody's watching. Hey, not everybody in your league is watching this. And I mean, if they are, awesome, great. Don't pick up Chase Edmonds. Just leave him on the waiver wire.
Many views, but
oh man. But in response to that trade, the Miami Dolphins traded for Jeff Wilson from San Francisco 49ers. Obviously history because Mike McDaniel was from San Francisco. So he probably knows a lot of the playbook already. I believe coming in, he will still be the backup behind Raheem Mostert, but I could see this eventually being more of a split backfield because I know even in San Francisco, like, they didn't want Raheem Mostert to get all the carries because, like, yes, he's fast, yes, he's speedy, but, like, he's not going to be able to be that guy if you're giving him 20-something carries a game.
And here's why I love this for Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson experienced the starting role. He was like an RB, he's like a top 15 running back, right? CMC comes in, takes the starting role, becomes irrelevant. People drop him.
Yeah.
Or maybe people like stash him on the bench in hopes that CMC's injury reappears and he comes back and plays as he did. Now he's in Miami. You have Mostert, who, like you said, has an injury history. But I also think that just based off his talent, he could share the backfield, right? Probably not like a complete 50-50 split, but there's a greater chance of him breaking off a run and getting the hot hand compared to whatever the hell Chase Edmonds did in Miami. And that case alone, I like this Jeff Wilson addition to Miami, and the offense now gets better. You don't have to force feed carries to Edmonds whenever Mostert is tired, gassed. You now have a solid backup in Jeff Wilson. So I really like this one.
Yeah, no, it was a great trade for Miami. Like to be able to like get Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson, like they're trying to make a push for the playoffs.
Does it make Jeff Wilson a starter in fantasy? No,
Yeah, no,
no.
not yet.
But
I would have to
it's
see it first before I want to start him.
yeah. But if McDaniels does what he did in San Fran and was like, okay, this kid Jeff Wilson, he just broke off a 10-yard run. He broke off a 12-yard run. First two carries of the game. You'll see him top like 16 carries on that game. Now, will you start him for that game? No. But
Yeah.
it's just like kind of like that luck where it's like you see him do it. So like if you truly get that desperate, I think him off the bench into your lineup is going to be better than a lot of other waiver wire pickups that you may find,
Like Chase Edmonds.
like Chase Edmonds. I mean, I know I suggested earlier is like pick up a backup running back, right? Or is like that
Deion
someone like the
Jackson.
starter may hurt, but let's say one of your running backs gets hurt and you look in the waiver wire and you see all those handcuff running backs. I would rather start Jeff Wilson over those handcuff running backs or like adding them onto your roster.
Right. Next up, we got Calvin Ridley got traded to the Jaguars. So plenty of the jokes about this is a gamble for the Jaguars. People like to say that, which it was funny because the bet that Calvin Ridley put was the Falcons to beat the Jaguars, and now he is on the Jaguars.
Oh my god.
But this has nothing to do with the redraft year this year. Like he's suspended the rest of the year. This is strictly for Dynasty. But I love this for Trevor Lawrence. Get him an actual like wide receiver one talent instead of just getting like Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, just a bunch of bodies to throw out there. Like, yeah, they can be good receivers. They can be good like wide receiver threes, fours ish. Like Christian Kirk, good wide receiver two, but none of those guys are like an alpha wide receiver. And Calvin Ridley has shown he is that. And while yes, it's hard to say what he's going to be whenever he comes back. If he does return to that, like that's a great deal for the Jaguars. On
But you don't think he'll return?
No, I'm saying like if he does like return to that form.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Okay.
because I mean he's going to miss a year and a half of football because like
Mhm.
even like before that suspension was whenever he had the whole like mental health thing, he took a break from the team type stuff. So yeah, to me it's like for Calvin Ridley, I am fine with buying him. I just don't know how much I would want to pay for him yet because like right now, right
Mhm.
after the trade, people are going to ask for a little bit more. Maybe wait a couple weeks where like he's still suspended, you're still having him on your bench or IR spot, just sitting there. Maybe you can trade like one of your bench players and like a third, maybe to get him later on this season. But like once this off season hits, his price is going to go back up.
I'm gonna ask you something.
Oh boy.
Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley,
Tua and Tyreek. I mean,
Tua,
yeah,
Tyreek. It's been the trend.
we've seen
It's
it happen.
now, of course, not all trends are 100%. And this might be the example of one that fails.
Well, I mean,
But
we can say one that fails is the new quarterback to a new team, like trade to a new team, automatically Super Bowl like contender. Like Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers, they won the Super Bowl. Stafford went to the Rams, won the Super Bowl. Now this year, all the quarterbacks have like changed. Like Carson Wentz, Commanders not great. Matt Ryan to the Colts not great. Like Russell Wilson to the Broncos not great. So it's like that's already a trend that's already been broken. Um,
Mm-hmm.
while I do really like think this connection could be something, it could easily not be anything. Like Calvin Ridley could go out there after a year and a half and just not be what he was. Like, I mean, he was in the same draft class as DJ Moore. I forget how old DJ Moore is. DJ Moore's 25 and Calvin Ridley's going to be 28 before he plays again.
I
Like
mean, like Stephon Diggs was added to the Bills around that age. I mean,
I
I
mean,
believe he was.
Diggs is 28 now.
Oh, okay. So he was like
So
26 when he was added.
yeah, so he's like 26ish.
Okay. I'm like, what about D Hop? D Hop to the Cardinals
D
with
Hop's
Kyler
what? He's
Murray.
like 30 right now, I think. So
I think that one's a good one. I mean, of course, Calvin Ridley's not to the level of DeAndre Hopkins, as we all know, but I mean, it's like I don't think age is too much of a limit, but it's kind of for dynasty wise that new scenery. Hopefully, this new scenery does help him in his mental health and whatever battles that he's been facing. But I mean, it could be something. It's just like too much of a speculation right now to kind of put it in place. And like you said, I wouldn't try going out and getting him now after the news because
it's going to
of how
be a
much
hefty price
speculation there
tag.
is around it. I don't think it's safe to buy into it yet.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. So, like, let's say later on the season, you can buy him for like a late second round rookie pick. Would you be doing that?
Late second round rookie pick for next year's draft.
Asking for a friend, of course.
Um, honestly, like I might because I don't know exact. Like I know this is like a talking point from Colin Coward that he always does whenever he talks about trades. He always says, "I'm not afraid," or like if I was in that position, I would not be afraid to send the draft pick because that is a player that I have no idea
Yep.
who he's going to be. And he's like, and I'm gonna send these picks to a proven player in the league. Like I know who this person can be in this league. I think right now at the level of speculation and how much Calvin Ridley could be on the Jaguars versus what the late second round dynasty pick could be in the NFL is I'd say this like the draft pick has more risk to it than
Yeah.
the Ridley has because the Ridley we've seen him play and adding him onto the team year off of football whatnot. I just like the Ridley one over the pick.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was thinking of the exact same because it's like rookie drafts is a crapshoot the way it is. Like first round picks like don't even turn out like in your rookie drafts. So like a late second round, like you really have no idea what that player's going to be. Like yes, he could be a great player like in the future, but he could also be nothing. Like I mean, I took Isaiah Spiller in this past like in the second round, and that was in the early second round, and
Mm-hmm.
like he's been absolutely nothing. So it's like I feel like the upside of Calvin Ridley is worth giving up like a late second. Like to me, I think I could maybe do a mid second. I don't know if I would do an early second with this draft class, but I feel like mid second would be like the highest I would go.
I don't know. For me, my rookie draft, I did a great job. I got Olave, first round, second round. I think it was Brian Robinson. Third round, Rashid White. Fourth round, Greg Dulcich. Fifth
Ooh,
round, Snoop Connor.
yeah,
So,
not bad.
no, wait, no, and I also traded for another pick and got Khalil Shakur.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I like that.
I mean, like there's drafts like that too. Um,
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
like,
I got like Javante Williams in my rookie draft at like the 107 in our like rookie draft. So it's like you get stuff like that.
and I feel like that's where it gets complicated with the first round picks, because some of those first round picks, like where you got Javante and I got Olave, Calvin Ridley, he's not worth that, in my
Yeah,
opinion. At
yeah.
28,
Not at
you
the yeah,
keep
not at this point.
you keep that first.
Yeah. Like in his prime, he's definitely worth that and more, but like right now, like the risk just isn't worth it to me.
Mhm.
Like I feel like the potential long-term asset that you can get with that first is so much worth more than what Calvin Ridley could be. But anyway, even though I love talking about Dynasty, unfortunately, we got to move on. Uh, Naheem Hines got traded to the Bills. This was like a last minute trade. This was like in the last 10 minutes of the trade deadline. Um, Hines to the Bills, and in return, the Colts got Zach Moss. Zach Moss is like nothing like fantasy wise relevant that you need to know about, because even if Jonathan Taylor's out multiple weeks or whatever, Deion Jackson's the guy um, to be like on your roster. But Hines is intriguing to me because in the offseason, the Bills tried hard to get JD McKissick. They offered him and signed him a contract until the Commanders matched the offer. And then in the draft, they kind of reached, but they got James Cook, and that hasn't worked out the way they were hoping that it was going to work out. So they bring in this veteran pass catching running back, which is great for the Bills system. And yeah, I like the upside, but at the same time, I don't know how well he could be for fantasy because they have so much.
Looking it up right now, James Cook is 3 years younger than Naeem Hines. I sent out a tweet earlier in the week saying, comparing the situation. So with the New York Jets, Brees Hall, their star rookie running back, gets hurt. And now it's looking like Michael Carter is assuming that role. And then they bring in James Robinson to fill that Brees Hall gap. I know it hasn't, like, of course it hasn't worked out as well. You saw the Jets last week, but that's what they did. I mean, they filled that hole and they wanted like someone compatible with Michael Carter. And the fantasy world blew up. It was like Michael Carter's done. Right? They brought in someone else. They brought in James Robinson to cover up some of the rushing duties that Michael Carter could have inherited. And then I said, okay, well, the Buffalo Bills, they got Devin Singletary and James Cook. Devin Singletary is completely healthy. And they traded for Naeem Hines. And of course, they sent away Zach Moss, but they weren't doing anything with Zach Moss anyway.
Yeah, I feel like
I
he
was
was
like,
going to be cut if he didn't get set back. Like,
yeah. So I was like, what does that say about James Cook? Like, what does that say at least in redraft, especially in redraft? What does that say about James Cook? That says, to me, it says he's not going to be relevant in this offense. And the Bills believe that Naeem Hines gives them a better chance right now to win. Therefore, they're going to be playing him a lot more. In Dynasty, however, it's a little bit more complicated. I had someone reply to me with a Kim Jong-un profile picture, which I don't know why I should have taken that man seriously. But he brought up the point. He was like, well, Naeem Hines is one of the best pass catching running backs in the league. Factual. Even though the Colts never really used him and proved it. But I mean,
sad face.
I feel like Colts fans knew that and they saw it when he had the ball in his hands. Either way, he said James Cook could use a mentor in that game. And adding Hines to it could teach him a thing or two. And within a year after this year, I mean, I think Hines has an opt-out option for 2023. I
Well, I
think so.
mean, like,
That's next year, right? So
yeah, but since the Bills like traded for him, I saw just a quick plug. Jay Robbins, he made an article about the Colts and Bills trade on the Blue Stable. So if you want to go check that out, bluestable.com. But he mentioned like since the Bills traded for him, like that guaranteed money that the Colts like gave him, the Bills don't have to worry about. So they could realistically like cut him after this year if they wanted.
Mm-hmm. And it might be okay, so that's the whole thing is like that reply. I was like, that's speculation on what Hines could be, what Hines means for Cook, right? That's more long term, and it's all like, okay, the Bills could release Cook. Oh, no, the bill not Cook. The Bills could release Hines after his contract's up with the potential out, or they could re-sign him because they like him so much. And let's say they win a Super Bowl with him. They could love that asset and say, hey, look, we want to bring you in again for 2 more years. That's also a possibility compared to Hines coaching up Cook. And that's why I said it's like looking at it from that perspective of Hines coming in and helping Cook is based off speculation. The fact is that Hines right now is a better running back than Cook and is
Yes.
added onto this team. So just looking at it at like that, you can see that Cook's relevancy is sort of declining. What that means for Dynasty, like I said, up in the air. But right now, I'm not liking James Cook.
Yeah, I don't like James Cook redraft or dynasty right now with this trade. I know reports are already coming out that Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen saw make a play in practice, and it's like, okay, this dude is fast. Like, Colts fans knew it. They know he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. I know I see
Oh,
Theo's reaction, but like, he's such a playmaker. And to be quite honest, I hope they win the Super Bowl with him because Hines deserves it. Like, he deserves it. But like, I know I also heard like earlier was like, if Devin Singletary goes down, do the Bills want their championship dreams to hinge on Zach Moss and James Cook? Not really.
yeah.
Raheem Hines is there to help them like have that insurance at running back to make that championship push. He's also probably their he's definitely their best pass catching running back on that roster. And it works so well because like yes, Singletary has been good in the rushing game lately in this past few years of his career. Like last year, we saw it at the end of the season. He did really well towards the end of the season. But Josh Allen, he's also basically a running back at the quarterback position at times. And like Naheem Hines would just work so well with him out of the backfield. Um, I'm definitely wanting to like, if I don't think he was out there anywhere in fantasy leagues anyway, but if he was, he's a good stash just like because he could be a flex play down the line if he starts getting more involved in this offense.
What do you think about the Colts side of things?
Deion Jackson, I'm holding on to him. He's one of those like top tier handcuffs that you want, like a Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison type guys. Because,
Wow.
well, I'm not saying he's like as high. Like, I'd definitely rather have those guys over Deion Jackson. But like, we've seen, like,
Bridge in that tier. He's like just a tier below that. Like if
yeah,
there's
he's
like
like right there. Yeah, like you see those guys are like the top of the top, and then like right there, like underneath, like Kareem Hunt type area, I would say ish.
okay.
Um, but it's like whenever Taylor's playing, he's probably not going to be relevant because I mean Naheem Hines was not really that relevant with Taylor in there. But like Taylor, we saw you didn't practice Wednesday with his ankle, so maybe you can get like these injury weeks out of Jackson. Like I know earlier we were talking about it, like with Swift even and guys like that. Like you just don't know when they're going to be like playing. And if Taylor doesn't play, we saw what Deion Jackson can do. Like he's a good fantasy starter whenever Taylor's out.
No, I agree with that. don't
Like,
have much to add on to it
I
other
mean, I
than,
want Deion Jackson on my roster more than I want Chase Edmonds or like Melvin Gordon
oh, easily.
or
And
Daryl Henderson.
yeah, Colts misused him. Okay, fan wise, I'm sad that he's gone, but like on paper wise, I'm glad that he's gone
Yes.
because they just misuse him so poorly. It was those runs up the middle. I looked it up. Hines was averaging 1.4 yards per carry on runs up the middle.
And that doesn't surprise me,
I mean, of course, you could chalk that up to the offensive lines,
Yeah.
bad play, but they just no, they did not know how to use him, and it was a mess. So I'm glad that he's on a team that passes a lot more. Josh
That
Allen,
can use him.
hmm and he won't be a check down. He'll be running routes, right?
Yes.
Like he's capable of running routes. So if you think that's like, oh, Josh Allen's rushing ability may hurt him, I don't think it would hurt him as much because he has the capability just as much as any wide receiver on that roster to go downfield and catch the ball.
Yeah, I mean that's how we saw a lot of like Hines' best plays go on was that he was like running a route down the sideline and like catches the ball and does what he does and just misses tackles in the open field. I think the biggest frustration I have with this is that whole offseason Frank Reich was like, "Hey, Naheem Hines, you should draft him in fantasy. If I was a fantasy player, I'd be drafting Naheem Hines."
That should have been the funny bit that we put in this
that,
week.
that could have been, yeah, but I mean, it was just so frustrating that he was like saying all this stuff and then they just still did not use him. Like they had the opportunity. Like it's just as a Colts fan, it was just frustrating. Like I feel like all Colts
Mhm.
fans can understand the frustration is that we had such a good playmaker, and I know people are upset about like what we got in return for Hines, and I am too. But in all reality, like the Browns could not get a fourth round pick for Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt's been used so much more than what the Colts use Hines. So it's like I can't really be that upset at what we got in return because, like, to be quite honest, I thought the max we could have got was a fifth round pick, and we got a conditional six that could be a fifth in Zach Moss.
Yep, I said I would have been content with the fifth as well. Um, I think just because of the fact that Hines, uh, not explicitly said, but wanted out,
Mm,
and that's kind of hard to negotiate, and you kind of have to take what you can. So I
yeah,
believe that's why the Colts settled with just like, all right, we could just take Zach Moss off your hands.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, to keep moving on, I know we're Colts fans, but this is a fantasy show, so um, there was no trade that ended up happening for Kareem Hunt, Brandon Cooks, or Jerry Judy, all guys that have been rumored for a while. Brandon Cooks, I know, posted something on his social media. He was not happy that he did not get traded. Um, I saw there's rumors going around that he could potentially be asking for a release soon from the Texans, which I mean, I can't really blame him, but
I will say this real quick. Um, Chase Claypool effed up the wide receiver market this trade deadline. I swear, I think because there was a lot of wide receivers, and like you said, Brandon Cooks, Jerry Judy, that were out there to be
yeah,
traded for, and then you see Claypool
go for a
go for a
second.
second, and of course, every single team with the wide receiver on the trade block is going to look at that and go, "Oh my God, our wide receiver is better than Claypool."
Right.
And they just got a second. No, you're raising your play like a first round. Like it's impossible. Like you and even the teams that had those wide receivers like Judy, like I know Broncos were asking for a second and a fourth, so it's not necessarily increasing it up to like a first round pick, but just adding more to that haul is what really messed it up, I believe.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know, like, I saw the Packers also offered a second round pick for Claypool, but Steelers thought the Bears were probably going to have a higher pick, which I mean they probably are, but I
Makes
just
sense. I mean, he's in the NFC now. Well, don't care. I'm gonna say, hey, your record looks like it's gonna be worse than this guy's record. I'll
right,
take your pick.
right. No, I
Simple as
agree,
that.
but it's funny because like I'm pretty sure I showed you guys, but like that I think it was Jerry Judy, was it that they're asking for a second and another like middle round pick? And
Yeah, that was with the Packers one. It was like Packers offered a second, right? And it was like,
yeah, for Claypool, but they want to give up a second and a middle round pick for Jerry
oh, for
Judy,
Jerry Judy. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that
which makes no
whatever.
sense to me because like to me like that middle pick would probably be worth giving up as well as a second for Jerry Judy.
I mean, to be fair, I think the makeup of Claypool is more enticing than Judy, but in
Yeah,
terms of talent and potential, I feel like Judy would be better off in that Packers offense. But
yeah,
I don't really know. Like, it's kind of weird to say that, but it's like, okay, if you could combine like Claypool's size, like Packers need Claypool's size, but they also need Judy's talent.
yeah.
And
AKA
that's
Devonte
where,
Adams. I mean,
oh, okay. Even then, Devontae Adams is above that. But I mean, like,
yeah,
that's just the complication of it. Packers couldn't get done, but Kareem Hunt switching it off the wide receivers, Kareem Hunt staying on the Browns is interesting, and I actually kind of like it for the backfield. Keep some consistency. Uh, I did pick up Dearness Johnson in one of my leagues, just kind of like crossing my fingers that like, okay, if Kareem Hunt does get shipped off, that's the next guy up. I'll gladly have him on the
yeah,
roster, but it didn't happen. Um, this doesn't hurt Chubb because Chubb has had Kareem Hunt on his team, so it's like, yeah, I guess all these guys are stagnant except for Brandon Cooks, who might get shooken up, oh, has been shaken up by this trade deadline by not getting traded. So
yeah. It's unfortunate. I think my favorite tweet from like the trade deadline was where they're like, "Oh, Colts gave up Naheem Hines. The Giants gave up Kadarius Toney, and the Packers gave up." Like I think that was my favorite tweet because it was just so funny. Um,
what a
Packers once
mess.
again don't do anything for Aaron Rodgers. Unfortunate. But anyway, I think we ran over our hour that we try to stay at, but
As we always do, but you know what? To be fair, this was a big week. This
this
was
was a
a
big
big
week.
trade week with a lot of implications, a lot of different sides being affected. So I feel like it's good to kind of like get a perspective on the landscape, and I hope we helped.
Talk it all out. Yep, I agree. But anyways, to close it out, hope you guys liked. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Help us out with that YouTube algorithm. Um, and yeah, until next week, whenever we might have a topic where we it's not just news. But anyway, have a good day, good night, good evening, whenever you're watching this, and goodbye.